Hey, welcome back to Smart Home Sellout. In my first two videos, I went over what Home Assistant is, why it's useful, when to run it, and what to run it on, and Wi-Fi, Zigbee, and Z-Wave. Now we're going to move on to what hardware options you have, specifically with lighting and your switches and your bulbs. We're going to go over a few scenarios where featuring Zigbee and Z-Wave specifically, where we'll go through smart bulbs and smart light switches and dimmers. By the end of the video, you'll know whether you want smart bulbs, dumb bulbs with smart bulbs with smart switches, or dumb bulbs with smart dimmers. And just to start out, I'd like to kind of focus on bulbs for a minute, or not just bulbs, but lighting in general. So what we kind of have is a few different options. We have just your regular bulbs, which you can get in a different color temperature. So you can get a warm white or a cool white. These are normally in Kelvin. So the higher the Kelvin number, the more of a bright white it will be. And then you can get, so you have warm or cool white, and then you can get RGB bulbs, which RGB red, blue, green. So my little strips here, these are RGB LED strips. But then you can get RGBW. So RGB, if I were to take these and turn it to white or try to do a warm white or a cool white, it's not really white. It's a little red, a little blue, a little green, and it's all mixed together, and that's how they're creating this white, right? It's not a dedicated white channel. And a better solution is getting RGBW lights, and you can get the same with the LED strips as well. RGBW lights not only do RGB, but they have a dedicated white channel. And then you can go a step further and get RGBW CCT, and the CCT is the color change temperature, color correcting temperature, and it's basically the ability to take that white channel and move it on that Kelvin scale. So you can have and like without CCT, you need RGBW strips, and the W will either be a warm white or a cool white or a natural white, maybe somewhere in the middle, versus a CCT RGBW bulb or other light will be able to change the color temperature and move that Kelvin slider, which is was useful. Depends on the situation, but more oftentimes than not, it's nice to have it. In this scenario, we have a couple of options. We can do, well, we have a lot of options, but I'm going to point out the choices that I personally would make if I were to be buying and setting these up myself. Uh, Hue, we have Hue RGBW, which is what we're looking at here, and we can even change the brightness, the lumens. We can buy, and you can get them in different bulb sizes, right? And here we can change color, so we can either do warm white, or it'll change our color temperature and warm to cool white. But you can see $65 for a bulb. It's a lot of money. We can do warm to cool white or soft warm white. So this has no color change, no color temperature change. This allows us to change our color temperature, and hue they call it ambient. So any of their ambiance bulbs will do that. And then this warm to cool white and color, so we're able to do RGB and change our color temperature. So this would be an ideal setup. Just got a price tag on it. One thing to notice here is buy two get one free. So we're going into Cyber Monday and Black Friday. Might be some better deals if you want to wait it out. If so, it's more going to be like a deal where they include a bridge or something. You won't save a ton, but we'll see. Your other option is well, I mean, sorry. So technically, this is just the same options that you have in in a different form factor, right? Although it looks like maybe they only have these in a white and color, but I'm not seeing the color temp change. So these are just RGBW, not color CCT. So those are great options. And then that is our so this would be scenario one. where we have smart bulbs only. This is a great way to easily add smart lighting to an existing house. Maybe you're not comfortable changing the light um, switches yourselves. So this is a great way to be able to automate. Like you can add a couple of motion sensors, and we can automate these without having to do any infrastructure changes. You just replace a bulb. So that's a pretty good pro. They're also very easy to configure inside the Hue app or using something like Zigbee to MQTT, which we'll get into in a future video. That's something running inside of Home Assistant OS. Or if we're using Z-Wave bulbs, then we'd be using Z-Wave JS. So these are Zigbee bulbs. As far as our Z-Wave bulbs, you really don't have a lot of options. I have added this uh, this one Innovelli blue bulb as our, or sorry, a red. They call it the red series. As our one Z-Wave bulb option. And if you look online, there's just not a lot of options for Z-Wave bulbs. So you might want to keep that in mind if you're choosing Zigbee and Z-Wave. And by the end of this, I think you'll be able to make a more informed decision. So that's our scenario one, which is smart bulbs only. We're not gonna in this scenario, you're not touching the light switches. Uh, but the cons, the problem with this scenario is when someone kills power to that switch as someone's walking out the room, you walk in later and you have this motion sensor and these smart bulbs and no lights turn on because someone has turned the lights off at the switch. That's not a great scenario. So now we'll swing into scenario two. In this scenario, we have smart switches only. In smart switches only, we have a couple of different options. We can do Zigbee smart switches, and there's quite a few different manufacturers of Zigbee light switches. These are the newest. These are the Innovelli Blue. They are $50 a piece, and they're not even able to be purchased. They're back order, and with how popular they become, I'd be amazed if they shipped before Christmas. So, but they've Innovelli themselves is a great company. They work directly with the community if there are any issues. But again, it's a $50 Switch and you can't even buy them right now. So the other option that you have is instead of Zigbee, and again, there's more than one Zigbee Switch option. We can go, for example, on AliExpress and search Zigbee Light Switch, and we have quite a few different options. We do want to stay away from Tuya. But there are quite a few different decent Zigbee. We can just go to Amazon here instead. Zigbee Light Switch, and let's see what pops up. So in Brighton, Sunoff, you want to be a little weary with some of their products. We want to confirm later online on Reddit or Discord or something and confirm that those don't have any known issues. Uh, but there are quite a few different Zigbee light switches to choose from. Here's one by Akara. Akara is a pretty decent brand. So that's Zigbee. Now we have Z-Wave options for smart switches. For our Z-Wave options for smart switches, I really like the Zoos. The Zoos here they actually have a full guide here, and I'll link to everything in the description of this video. So Zoo's smart switches are honestly pretty popular. I personally own a lot of these Zen 76 switches, and what these allow me to do, these are not smart dimmers, they're smart switches, but they are able to do 3 and 4 way. They are able to do multi-tap, so I can make a double tap or a triple tap, do different things. So, for example, when I walk into my kitchen at night, or just whatever, I can tap once and it'll turn on. The motion sensor will turn on the lights as well, or I can double tap and that does it to 30%. Same within in bathrooms and different bedrooms, which is pretty nice. They call that scene control. And they even have this nice little LED that you can change colors on. So you could technically sync that to, if it's raining, you could make it blue or red. You name it. You could sync that to various different things. So then these are some decent. This is a decent light switch or a smart switch scenario. This can take your dumb bulbs and allow us to turn them on or off. And uh, this is a good scenario where maybe you have a bunch of can lighting or a chandelier in a kitchen or another room, and you don't want to buy 7 different can lights or 3 or 4 different bulbs for a chandelier. This will allow us to install one device, and now we've made that entire setup smart, or that the entire all 7 of those bulbs are now smart because we can turn them on or off. Uh, so this is good, but a pro is that it's going to work when Home Assistant is offline. There's no need to replace any existing bulbs, and the setup and configuration is pretty straightforward. It's going to work out of the box by default. There's obviously some settings we can change, including the color of the LED and various double tap, triple tap, etc. But they're gonna work out of the box, and again, if Home Assistant's offline, they still work. Uh, Cons, you either need an electrician or you need to know how to install these yourself safely, of course. And if you do, I highly recommend getting Wago lever nuts instead of wire nuts. I've switched them myself. I've seen a lot of electricians online suggest them, and I really like them a lot. They're actually required by law in Europe and a lot of other countries. So, we're kind of some of the few countries that are still only using wire nuts, but they are uh, legally, like, they're allowed by code. They can handle the voltage and the amperage in our light switch gang boxes. So definitely check out Wagos. I'll put a link to those in the description as well. So let's see here. Uh, yeah, the other downside is when you're in a smart switch only scenario, you are not able to change color temp of the bulbs because we're just turning them on and off, and there's no color at all. So that could be considered a downside. Third scenario is smart bulbs with smart switches. Now, this is the most amount of control out of any of the scenarios. And in this scenario, you would use these switches, for example, and then you would pair them with a smart bulb. And or on the this is Z-Wave. So then on the Zigbee side, you would use something like a Philips Hue bulb or or sorry, a Philips Hue bulb and a Innovelli blue switch or similar. And these don't have to. You can mix and match companies. You just need Zigbee to Zigbee and Z-Wave to Z-Wave uh, for the scenario that I'm mentioning. However, you can technically mix and match them as well if you have both Zigbee and Z-Wave meshes on set up at your house. Then you can mix and match as much as you'd like. So, but in this scenario, we're going to focus on Z-Wave to Z-Wave and Zigbee to Zigbee. The pros in this scenario are the smart bulbs and smart switches allow you to control the color temperature, warm versus cold. We can change the dimming of those bulbs because we have smart bulbs that are dimmable. We can change the color of the bulbs. So, ultimate control here. Cons, it's most expensive scenario. So, I mean, look at this. This is $50 for a switch. Uh, this $55 or $65 for a bulb, and maybe you need multiple, 2 for a bathroom, 4 for a bathroom, something. That's a pretty expensive scenario, but we certainly wouldn't have to start out with these bulbs. We could do warm to cool white in an 1100 lumens, and that's $28. So those jump down quite a bit. If you want just no color change at all, or no color temp or color, $22, and then these get even cheaper in big in 2 packs or 4 packs, and buy two get one depending on what devices you're looking at here during their sale. But cons, most expensive scenario, it's going to require an electrician because we are going to be installing mains power electricity, or putting this in a one gang box or two gang box or something. Let's see. Requires a somewhat advanced config. So I want to bring this up because you can actually do something really neat with both Zigbee and Z-Wave. If you have a Zigbee switch and a Zigbee bulb, or a Z-Wave switch and a Z-Wave bulb, then you are able to, on Zigbee it's called binding, and on Z-Wave it's called direct association. And spoiler, that's exactly what it's doing. You are directly associating a bulb to a switch. And what that allows you to do is, even if Home Assistant is down, basically you're linking the switch and the bulb, and you can even set up complicated multi-tap scenes, whatever, to where it will still work as expected doing these complicated things. You can even make it to where one switch is listening to other switches, to where, if you triple tap on one switch upstairs, it does the same thing as if you were to triple tap on one downstairs. So you can do all kinds of really complicated, neat things with these, with both Zigbee and Z-Wave, with binding and direct association, if you have these multiple products. And that binding and direct association, that actually expands past bulbs and switches. You can make it to where, this LED, for example, would change color if the sirens, the smoke alarm started going off. So you can certainly get way into that, but we're not really focusing on that at this point. We're just doing lighting. Uh, so our fourth scenario is dumb bulbs with smart dimmers. So this is a Zen 76. This is a smart switch. However, this is a Zen 77 smart dimmer switch. In in this scenario, we're able to take our existing bulbs or upgrade our bulbs, uh, with dumb bulbs, aka not smart bulbs, but we're able to take these dimmers and, these are a great way to use your existing bulbs and still have dimming functionality and smarts. This is going to work with Home Assistant offline out of the box, because it will be sending reports back to Home Assistant. So if that's, available, which at no point should Home Assistant be down, but you never know. Uh, Hardware does fail and whatnot. Uh, you're able to use bulbs that change color temp based on brightness, which is nice. So you can actually buy bulbs that, instead of just being one color temp, are actually able to, based on the amount of, I believe it's voltage that's pushed to the bulb, it changes the color temp. So if the voltage is less, it's more of a warm white. If it's higher, it's more of a cool white, which is a nice, option for people that don't need color but do want dimming, which this is able to dim, and also includes the ability to use a color temp bulb if possible. The cons, of course, in this scenario, you're unable to use smart bulbs or RGBW bulbs. Uh, there's just not much else I can say as far as the downsides there. I mean, if you happen to have smart bulbs, this is going to, not work with them, because it's going to try to dim, and those smart bulbs need constant power. They're not able to run on less power, so, or kind of be ramped down. So that's not really a great, solution if you need RGBW bulbs or want smart bulbs in general. But you'd still be able to do, like, hey Siri, turn my. Well, I don't want to trigger it on my. I'm sure she's listening somewhere. Uh, you could still set it to. You could still make it to where your smarts are able to turn, this room to 30%, for example. So hopefully in this video you understand the difference now between, smart bulbs and smart switches and smart dimmers, and learned a little bit about RGB and RGBW, and, color correct or color change temperature, with the different kelvins. I really thank you again for coming. Please check out my Discord server. I have links to join it below. I also have I haven't made a website yet, but I bought smarthomesellout.com. So if you want to shoot me an email, Brandon at smarthomesellout, or business at smarthomesellout, really anything will work. I made a catch-all, so, even hey it's me at smarthomesellout would .com would still hit my email inbox. And other than that, I just really appreciate you being here. Please leave a comment below if there's anything that you want me to go over next. I'm thinking about possibly my next video is going to be more of a specific tutorial. For example, maybe Hyperion with RGB LED strip behind a TV. It's a really neat project. So that'll probably be my next one, but I'm not 100%. Don't hold me to that. Thank you again for your time.